something go right over the top of us that looked like a long cylindrical object that almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing moving really fast. We just had something go right over the top of us that looked like a long cylindrical object that almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing moving really fast.
But let's look at what the mainstream people are talking about here, right? Sledges and rollers. There's no sledge in the world you could put 110 tons on that's going to be more useful than not having it. That's ridiculous. Lever systems. What are you going to lever it with? Wood?
What counterweight would you have to
It
lever?
just doesn't make any sense at all.
All the villages on one side.
Even if you dug into let's just say you had a whole tree. How would you lift it up? Well, you're going to get everyone to stand on each other's shoulders. The whole thing's just complete nonsense.
Yeah.
Human and animal labour. Maybe if you had 25 woolly mammoths, but how would you persuade them to do what you want anyway?
Yeah, without them killing you. And I don't think oxes and farm animals in those days were habituated like they are today.
Well, I think probably an oxen. But how many oxes would you need to move 100? You've got to drag this thing up a hill. I mean, I don't think you could do it with less than, I don't know, at least 100.
Yeah, well.
I mean, it just takes one to start a stampede, and then everyone's dead. And then you're going to do that with hundreds and hundreds of stones. I just can't see that as a feasible option.
No, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, they also mentioned possible water transportation. There are a lot of streams around the area, but you'd have to displace
150 tons of water in a tiny little stream. And what are you going to build the boat out of? I mean, as far as I know, they didn't have hollowed out boats.
Not.
They just had floating logs.
Years before BC. No,
they just had. So we're talking about 2,500 BC.
Yeah.
In the mainstream media. So as far as I know, they weren't hollowing out boats to sit in, logs to sit in. They might have floated stuff on a log, but just imagine how much water displacement you'd need, because you'd have to have the weight of the logs too.
Yes, exactly.
So you'd be displacing 200 tons of water. That's 200 cubic meters in a stream. It's just nonsense.
No.
Ramps and earthen mounds. Ramps made of earth or timber were constructed to drag stones up to high level.
This is a similar thing to the.
That doesn't even make the most basic sense,
isn't it? Where they dug the mounds to drag the stones up to the required height. And then,
sure, okay,
yeah.
But I mean, I hear what you're saying. But the pyramids and the stone in the pyramids are nothing.
Well, it's a completely different type of thing, isn't it?
And they had copper allegedly, which meant they could cut stone. Well, obviously they could cut stone. Whoever made the pyramids could cut stone.
Yeah.
There's no sign these guys could cut stone at all. And then, of course, there's the whole problem of astronomical alignment. If you've got astronomical alignment, then you're on a globe Earth.
Yeah.
Which means I don't think you'd be using a deer antler on a stick. I think you would have a little bit more ingenuity than that. For me, whatever this is, this mainstream suggestion, is impossible.
It seems like a stopgap for lack of knowledge and fact. It's what they're making assumptions from the indicators that they've seen from the archaeological digs, and it's whatever the best fit is at the time.
Well, there's a determination here that these people couldn't have had technology we don't understand, and that's why they're going to these ridiculous ideas that they dragged it. I mean, I think we should get together every historian on planet Earth and tie them to 110-ton rock and see how far they can get in a month.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not reasonable. I mean,
no, it'll take a lot of convincing to turn me on this. I can't imagine how, being there myself and seeing the size and the awkwardness of the shapes of these things, I cannot see how you would be able to physically drag these up and down rolling hills for 20, 30 miles.
So, where does this leave us?
Well, this leaves us into, like you touched on earlier, were they in possession of knowledge of how to physically manifest and move things through consciousness and thought? Or was there some sort of external help as people have alluded to for the pyramids, were there some sort of, technology that we weren't aware of that some other beings might have had to, they don't hold charge, these stones, do they, in any way?
Not.
They're not conductive.
Well, they're silicate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, conceivably, with certain technologies, maybe you could do. But are these things that they could have just discovered that were already there?
And then, yes.
And then just hacked away at them with antlers on sticks and left their bits of carbon dating all over them and destroyed any carbon dating previously. That, to me, seems to be the most logical possible
Yes, that's
idea.
the most logical possible idea, but it poses so many more questions, because if you're going further back now,
Göbekli Tepe,
yeah, then you're looking at what, 9,000 plus years BC.
Yeah, 10,000 years BC, basically.
Yeah, I mean,
we're talking about the Younger Dryas period. Now,
saber-toothed tigers and Neanderthals and all that sort of stuff.
Maybe. Well,
that sort of period.
See, the problem is, you see, of course, that Göbekli Tepe doesn't fit with anything before about 2010, because they hadn't discovered it.
Yeah.
And when they discovered it, it obviously upsets a great number of people, because
their theories all got thrown out the window.
It makes it absolutely impossible for a huge amount of what we've been told about the beginnings of human civilization to be the only truth, because of course it means there had to be a civilization previous to the Younger Dryas period, which means that the whole idea of how long civilizations existed on planet Earth is badly skewed. Then we've got the other problem, of course, of this genetic problem of the Brazilians and the Australians having the most similar DNA. People who couldn't possibly have had any origin of connection except via a land bridge back in 100,000 years ago. So at some point, however you want to work out how this happened, whether it means human beings were around when the Earth was all one landmass, depending on how you believe that was, whether it was one big island or a much smaller planet or whatever, these stones were put there by much more ancient people. They didn't carve them.
No.
They just put. So what would the purpose of that be?
Well, obviously the mainstream position of that is some form of memorial and some form of burial rites, religious rites. They are the standard go-to theory when you find the structures and a couple of skeletons. This was a holy site that everyone used to be buried and honoured. It's a very easy way to describe something, but I don't think that's right. I don't think that's accurate. I mean, if you're going to bury loads of people, it will look more like the structures that are in France, which look more like gravestones, don't they? The similar Neolithic structures in France, because they're all lined up in a row, and they're all like similar to the Avenue.
I mean, the alignment in France, I know it looks like a modern day cemetery, but I just don't think that's what it is.
No, but I'm just I'm speculating.
Exactly.
Because that's all we can do.
So the question is, okay, so let's just talk for a minute about what it can't be. I don't believe that Neolithic people described to us as the pre-Bronze Age people could have moved those stones there. I just don't see how that's possible. So that can't be what happened, in my mind. So, is it possible they discovered stones there put by people earlier? Of course it's possible. But then you've got the problem of the fact that the stones haven't been modified, or, there's nothing technologically advanced with the immediate appearance of these stones. What is the explanation for that? These people are not as advanced as the people making the pyramids, on the face of it.
No, obviously, scientific knowledge is moving on leaps and bounds day by day. And for us, we understand certain properties and aspects of structures and how they bounce waves off of each other, be it light waves, sound waves, whatever it is. Could it be possible that geographical marker or some sort of magnetic signpost?
There's no doubt in my mind it has to be a
some
marker, because why else would you put something immovable there?
Yes.
That is the only true property of these stones that is inarguable. They are basically immovable. So if you wanted to go and get the Avebury stones and take them 100 miles now, you would have to really put your back into it by whatever means. Now, of course, some of the stones have moved, some of them have fallen over, but the ones that weigh 100 tons haven't. They've been exactly where they are now for over 4,000 years. At least 4,500 years. So they had to be put there to signify a position of something. You know, very much like the pyramids, they signify a position of something. Now, there's countless theories about astronomical alignment, and some of them are close, as far as I can see, and others aren't so much. But if you are prepared to say, let's just say that, you know, the Giza pyramids was the original centre of the world, and that's where every single point was measured from, there are interesting numbers about Avebury and Stonehenge. But I still don't think it really explains why there's so much in one place, why the stones are so plain. If you wanted to tell people 5,000 years in the future something specific, all you had to do was carve it into those stones.
Yeah. It seemed that the statement that was trying to be made was that they were just there to be there. They weren't there to give a message. They were there to perform a job, a function at the time.
Maybe. Well, even that, see, that's possible, isn't it? Is that the mass of them perform some sort of function. But blimey down. I mean, whatever that is now, it is an absolute complete mystery. If they are about reflecting acoustics and generating a sort of state of mind of chance, then that's a really exciting, fascinating idea.
It is.
But what can we do to take a step towards any kind of validation? Well, people have done experiments with 3D printed models of Stonehenge.
And they measured the sound waves bouncing off.
And they've tried live experiments at Avebury and measured about resonance. And there are interesting facts of it, but they are not, you know, turning over the mainstream level certainty facts.
No.
I mean, how seriously can we really take them?
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw that study that guy did on how when they did run these experiments of bouncing sound from within the circle. This was Stonehenge. This test, and the experiment was performed where sound was produced from inside this model of the circle, and it was projected out towards the stones surrounding it. Now the sound waves bounced back off each other, but they didn't disrupt in the sense that they didn't lose them. They were all amplified up. All the sound waves were amplified up and towards each other, but not out of the circle. All stayed within the circle, and I think it rose 4 decibels.
Yes,
I think
so
from the actual measurement,
the resonance,
the
resonant amplification of the circles was something
and
like.
And it was very difficult for anyone standing. It would have been very difficult for anyone standing outside of the circle to distinguish what was being said within it.
Because it would have been quieter.
Yeah,
exactly.
Would have been a lot quieter.
Because they're basically acting like noise dampening headphones. Now, once again, if they had that level of understanding, and if they did, then they almost certainly did align these things astronomically on purpose. If they had that level of understanding, why was everything so primitive?
Yeah, why was the rest of the infrastructure and lifestyle of these people so primitive?
Well, because it wasn't a concern, I suppose. Because harmony with nature was the most important thing. I mean,
to a pagan, yes.
With us, I mean, can you name me a single technology that hasn't absolutely knackered the world in the process of making things easier? You know, it doesn't matter whether you're talking about oil, electricity, plastics, every single one of these things
Detrimental.
seemed like a good idea at the time and turned out not to be.
Mm.
Is it possible these people were as technologically advanced in areas like astronomy, way more advanced in terms of spirituality,
Yes.
and they just didn't do anything other than harmonise their lifestyle with the land?
Mm.
I mean, to me, that seems like the most credible option, is that the truth of the Bronze Age people, or the pre-Bronze Age people, was that they had a far greater understanding of planet Earth than we do now.
Yeah, they were one with nature, and nature was one with them, and they understood the seasons. They understood astrology much better than we did, and they lived off the land. They didn't have any materialistic needs, so they could focus on these sort of spirituality and consciousness a lot more than a modern day human could do with all the distractions around them.